But thank you all for joining me. I will be talking tonight about Alzheimer's disease. So last weekend at the health conference, we were talking about myelin. I don't remember why, but someone had a question about myelin, maybe about multiple sclerosis and the effect of CBD on multiple sclerosis or patients who have any type of brain issue. And so what I did in some research I had been looking at, I guess a few months back, one of the things that we do know is that CBD is neuroprotective, right? So being neuroprotective, it is able to protect the neurons. And in protecting the neurons, it's actually protecting the myelin and preventing the myelin breakdown and the breakdown of the nerve itself. So I figured since I was presenting tonight that we could just talk a little bit more about Alzheimer's disease. It has been a very, very busy day for me, y'all. So please bear with me. And if y'all see typos, it is because I was just finishing up and I'm sorry. So let's see here. All right, so hopefully y'all see this just fine, or could someone just put in the chat whether or not you can see my slides? I am not at home, so I don't know. All good. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, wonderful. All right, so let's get started here. So pretty much talking about Alzheimer's disease and how it affects people in general. It's a major thing. Alzheimer's is pretty much the gradual decline of memory, thinking, and reasoning. Unfortunately, anyone who gets to live beyond the age of 65 becomes very high risk of having Alzheimer's. And that's pretty much because there are many factors that can lead to Alzheimer's disease. And one of the biggest things is vascular changes. When you have blockage in the brain and that blockage ends up causing inflammation, the inflammation in turn leads to an unstable neuron. And hence we get the Alzheimer's disease, where you get the gradual memory loss, you get issues with thinking and even issues with reasoning. Some Alzheimer's facts. It is the most common form of dementia. So most people know dementia, and it is DEMENTIA. So dementia is, you lose your ability to remember, to be able to do things you were able to do before. Sometimes even simple things like tying your shoe, how to put the toothpaste on your toothbrush first and then brush. So some of those simple things. Well, there are many different things that can lead to dementia. Alzheimer's happens to be the most common thing that can lead to dementia. Currently, we have 5.8 million Americans who have been affected, who are actually diagnosed. 5.6 million are actually in the 65-year-old and above age group. About 200,000 though are under 65. And under 65, there have been cases in someone as young as 20, in their 20s. That's really, really early onset. And so we do know, unfortunately, that Hispanics, Blacks, and women will have the highest incidence, it is projected, in the years to come. And why? Because of stress. Because we talked about this before, right? Stress is a major cause of increased inflammation throughout the body. And so stress does so much. Remember, we talked about Takotsubo syndrome, the broken heart syndrome, and how it can lead to heart failure. Well, stress is here we are in the brain. Stress is now causing greater inflammation in the brain, and it's causing a breakdown in the ability of the myelin to protect the neurons, and therefore leading to early onset damage to the neurons, which in turn turns into an Alzheimer's picture. So here, when we're just looking at the brain in general, we have the entorhinal cortex, the hippocampus, and the cerebral cortex. Well, the entorhinal cortex is actually responsible for short-term memory, our ability to navigate, to know where we are, and our time perception. The hippocampus, it regulates our emotions, it's responsible for long-term memory and our ability to learn. The cerebral cortex now, it is responsible for our motor function, our sensations like hearing, taste, touch, and vision. Well, early stage Alzheimer's, what we see is an effect on the entorhinal cortex, where you have the memory loss, misplacing things, you have, people forget names of places, of people, repeat conversations over and over and over again. The same questions are, hey, did I tell you such and such happened? Yes, you told me that 5 times already. Well, early stages where you start to see that short-term memory loss starting to happen. These are people who start to become hesitant to try new things because, believe it or not, most realize that they are forgetting, and it makes them feel uncomfortable. And so they don't want to come across as someone who is actually potentially with early Alzheimer's. So they may stop hanging a lot. They might not be willing to go places with you that they were going before. Definitely in the older generation of people, they don't want to lose their independence. So even though these things are going on and they may be hesitant to learn new things or try new things, they're still wanting to maintain their independence. So they'll be a little forgetful, but they'll continue on with their day-to-day duties and try to wing it. They'll start making little notes for themselves. They'll start setting alarms. They'll start putting things in places strategically to help them remember. And then we move on to the middle stage. In the middle stage, there's increased confusion. There's a change in the behavior and mood. Now we're in the hippocampus area. There are changes in the sleep pattern and agnosia, which is the inability to recognize people and things. So middle stage is probably the stage that most of you find a lot of your family members in and friends in, where they are confused. They're in a vehicle, going to the store, halfway there, forget where they're going, have to turn around. They're more aggravated. They're more irritated because they know they're forgetting. Because it's not just an absolute thing. It's not just an all the time they're confused. It's bits and pieces. It's intermittent. They're confused right now. And then you might talk to them in an hour and they may not be so confused anymore. They may sleep well one night and then they may toss and turn another night. They may be unable to recall the name of a neighbor, recall the name of not people who they don't really communicate with often enough. Now, they'll probably still initially in the early stages of middle, they'll probably still remember their children's names, but as they get further along into the middle stage and towards the latter part of middle stage, they'll even forget the names of their spouses and their children. And it is a hard thing for them, and it's a hard thing for the family. Alzheimer's disease not only affects the person that is having to go through it, but it's a hard thing for our family members to have to deal with as well. People who have Alzheimer's, when I talk about that intermittent confusion and then all of a sudden they're not, this is the time when it is most dangerous for them, because they will have lucid moments where they feel like, oh, but I know how to drive. By the time we get to middle stage, there should be no more driving. There should be no more cooking. There should be no more bathing. Showers are so much better. There should be more supervision. And it's a hard thing because mama and daddy still remember, I am your mama, I am your daddy. You can't tell me what to do. You need to do what I tell you to. Give me my keys. As the child, it's a hard thing to have to treat your parents like children, but unfortunately, it is something that has to be done in order for you to keep your parents safe. It is a hard place to be. I've had so many of my patients' kids not want to do that, not want to enforce their rules and regulations to keep their parents safe. But if any of you out there are dealing with family members who have Alzheimer's, I'm going to tell you, please do what is right for them. This is not about you disrespecting your parents. This is about you doing what is right for them. Because imagine you not doing it, and that leads to them going off and driving and getting lost in the wrong neighborhood, or getting confused and driving into water. I had a patient, y'all, who she was on her way here, and this is me months and months talking to her kids, and her kids refused to come to terms with the fact that their mom was actually in early Alzheimer's when we initially started talking about it. And she was on her way to my office, and I get a call, the staff gets a call from a strange lady who's saying that my patient is trying to get to my office, but she's about 15, 20 miles out of the way in a completely different city. And they were just trying to help her get there. Now, this is a nice little lady. Thank God that my patient ended up in her yard. But this could have been such a horrible situation. And it took that for her kids to finally come to the understanding that, okay, yes, mama is forgetful. Mama is truly, truly in the Alzheimer's stage now. So you always want to do what is right, no matter what. And then the late stages of Alzheimer's, you actually have that cerebral cortex now that is involved, and you have the loss of basic cognitive skills. You can't get up out the bed. You can't remember how to walk or feed yourself. Almost you're never hungry because you're not sensing any hunger. So they stop eating. A lot of times they become bedridden. We end up having to put peg tubes in, and it just becomes, just basic care until they pass. And it's a hard, hard place for kids to be. A really, really hard place. I've had to walk through this with a lot of my patients' kids. And so just remember, this is it's a harsh, harsh disease that we definitely don't want to take lightly at all. And so in figuring out what happens, how come people end up with Alzheimer's? Well, let's first just understand the brain itself. So, our brain is made up of a bunch of nerves, a bunch of neurons. And so you can see up here we have the neuron. And this is the body of the neuron, the cell itself. Right in the center, here's the nucleus. These things here are called dendrites. And the dendrites actually receive messages from the neuron that is in front of it. And so remember, we talked about this as well. It's a signal. When there's a message that needs to be sent, the message moves from neuron to neuron. And from the dendrites, it'll receive the signal from the previous neuron. The dendrites get the signal, and it passes that signal down its axon. Well, look at here. Look at what is covering the axon. The myelin. This is where the myelin comes in. So the myelin are covers. These are covers that protect our neuron, the axons of the neuron. And these myelin sheets serve to insulate the signal. So that signal that the dendrites receive from that previous neuron, now it's carrying the message down the axon. And what the myelin will do is it keeps that signal within the axon so that it can't go out into the space. And it also keeps it moving down in the right direction. And so what is going to happen is the axon is going to send that signal all the way down until it reaches the dendrites of the next neuron, and it will pass the signal on to the next neuron. And so when myelin protection is not there, that is when we get damage to the nerve. So what causes this myelin breakdown? Well, we have two villains here. We have beta amyloid plaques and we have neurofibrillary tangles. So first, the amyloid plaques, that's what you see here. So first, let's deal with the healthy looking neuron. So here we have the healthy looking neuron. First, here you have the dendrites, the cell body, and then we have that axon. Well, the axon, if you enhance it and look at it, here along the axon, we have something called tau protein. And the tau protein actually helps to stabilize the microtubules which make up this axon. And so the tau protein, that's its function. Its function is stability. It wants to keep the area, that axon nice and stable so that it can do the job that it's meant to do. And when we start to see the damage, number one, the amyloid plaques start to build up. So we have beta amyloid plaques that happen as a result of an over accumulation of the amyloid. And it took years and years and years, and finally we have a breakthrough in what might be happening. But for years, especially like when I was in medical school, probably up until maybe 5 years ago, we just knew that these plaques built up. And when the plaques build up, these amyloid plaques will literally destroy the neurons and cause enough damage and destruction that they actually kind of disintegrate and wither away. And the tau proteins become unstable and they start to detach from the axon. They get all tangled up here, and the tangles of tau protein actually make up the neurofibrillary tangles. And so these are the two villains. These are the two reasons why we end up having the destruction to the neurons and why we have the Alzheimer's. Well, the big finding in the past 5 years is, and you don't need to, I just wanted you to see the word, but GSK3B hyperphosphorylation. Hyperphosphorylation is something that is occurring. It's an enzyme. It has great duties in the brain. The GSK3B actually is one of the enzymes that does multiple duties within our brain. But there's a hyperphosphorylation of certain processes that are happening within our brain that lead to the tangles that are happening with the tau proteins. That leads to the excessive amount of amyloid, which allows for the amyloid plaques to form. And what else we learned is that we have CBD. CBD is the winner again. It is, look, here I come to save the day. You have CBD that helps to prevent the hyperphosphorylation process. And so this actually has been seen in studies as of 2019. And this has great promise because we have medications that can slow the progression of Alzheimer's, but we don't have a cure for Alzheimer's. If we are able to truly prevent this hyperphosphorylation process, then we're going to make so much of a difference in the lives of people who are suffering from Alzheimer's, especially early onset Alzheimer's. This is going to be just a life-changing thing for so many people and families as a whole. Well, in addition to this, another thing that we want to make sure we understand is a lot of this hyperphosphorylation damage to the nerves happens as a result of inflammation, right? So one other issue we face as we get older is, especially for people who just kind of eat whatever, whenever, however, you know, you have an increase in inflammation within your blood vessels. As that inflammation in your blood vessels continues to be more chronic, you end up getting the leaky oozing of the wall in the blood vessels. That oozing causes the plaque to form. And as you continue to have the inflammation and the oozing and the plaques are going to get big enough until they cause complete blockage in certain brain areas. Pretty much anybody over the age of 65, we're going to see those inflammatory changes in the blood vessels. Well, when those inflammatory changes are happening, it sets off a change in the environment in our brain as a whole. And so for people who are more susceptible to the amyloid plaques and those who are more susceptible to that unstable environment that causes those tau proteins to tangle and make those neurofibrillary tangles, that inflammatory process is actually causing those things to be even worse. So we know that now CBD helps to prevent hyperphosphorylation, but we also know from a previous presentation that CBD is a very, very, very strong anti-inflammatory product. So when we are using CBD in Alzheimer's patients, we're reducing inflammation. We're preventing further hyperphosphorylation processes from happening. And so for sure, we can think of it along the lines of we're helping to slow down the progression, which is definitely something we want to do until the scientists do their magic and figure out how to stop it completely. And so this is a major find for us because, you know, Alzheimer's affects so many people. It affects the whole family. Unfortunately, there ends up a lot of times being one or two people in the family trying to take care of an Alzheimer's patient. The problem with that is Alzheimer's patients, by the time they get to that middle stage, they pretty much need 24/7 supervision. My grandmother used to say, once a woman, twice a child. I don't know if y'all have heard that saying before. And I didn't understand it when she said it, and I had to ask her. And she said, you know, we have one chance at being adults, you know, that from 20 all the way up to 60 maybe. But she says after 60, many of the elderly revert back to, in the brain, being childlike. They're unable to make those good decisions. They can't remember. Their ability to know danger from no danger is tainted. And unfortunately, these adults need the supervision that their kids can provide for them. But if you are the family member of someone who's suffering from Alzheimer's disease, I highly, highly encourage you to go to the Alzheimer's Association and get different tips. There's a whole association where family members are part of this organization and they're giving one another tips on how to better manage their loved one who has Alzheimer's. And so here we are to our fabulous, what kind of products, because CBD can definitely help. We talked about different things. We know it's an inflammatory process, but we know it changes the mood. It messes around with our ability to sleep. Well, CBD can help with all of that. Definitely, we can have CBD on board and it'll help give a better restful sleep. It'll help relieve a lot of the anxiety that Alzheimer's patients are feeling because they know that they're more forgetful. And so being able to have that CBD on board allows them to not feel so stressed, not so anxious, and it reduces the inflammation. So that alone is going to slow down the progression. Because think about it. If you realize that you're more forgetful, you're going to be leery about going around family and friends because you don't want them to know. You're going to be leery about doing different things around different people because you're afraid they're going to realize that you're being forgetful. You're going to be afraid to talk because you're going to be, okay, did I say this already? And that anxiety and stress that's building up with every one of those things is increasing the inflammation in the body. And the more inflammation there is, the more unstable the brain's environment becomes, which means that this can accelerate the progression of Alzheimer's. So if we can have CBD on board and relieve the stress, allow them to sleep better, allow them to feel less anxious, to just reduce the inflammation in general, that alone will help to slow down the progression to the end of middle and on to late stages of Alzheimer's. And so when we think about our products, we know we have fabulous products. We have the tinctures and gummies, which we are going to look at. But the winner here for Alzheimer's patients by far is going to be the water-soluble products that we have. So our water-soluble products, you put the drops in water, or you can put it in any kind of drink you have. And it's just an easy, simple way for us to be able to get our Alzheimer's and dementia patients the product without them having to worry about holding it under their tongue. Let me get 3 drops. Okay, hold it for 2 minutes. You know, by the time they're going to be anxious about doing, it's probably going to be something that leads to more anxiety. So to prevent all of that, using the water soluble is just the perfect solution for it all. You start off with the 3 drops in, like I said, any kind of liquid, fluid, and allow them to drink it. We still want to do that twice a day. And you can increase the drops as you see fit to increase it for them, and you want to pay attention to the symptoms that they are having. Of course, at that stage, they're going to be on other medications. So you want to try and always give CBD at least 2 hours before or 2 hours after prescription medicines. And you want to pay attention to how your loved one is responding. If there is a great response, wonderful, stay right where you are. If they're not really responding, then maybe you need to go up with, by 2 or 3 more drops. And of course, it's something you would want to do twice a day, because we want to make sure that we have a constant, as steady a state of CBD in the system as we possibly can. So in addition to that, though, if there's somebody who has, let's say, maybe they don't have the middle stage, maybe it's somebody who has early stage Alzheimer's, but they still want to be able to prevent the progression as much as they possibly can. They want to do all that they can to keep the inflammation level in their bodies down, because again, most of our, if not all of our medical issues all have an inflammatory beginning. And so if we can keep the inflammation down, then we can maybe get a hold of most of the medical issues that we have to deal with. So if it's somebody who's just dealing with early onset Alzheimer's, they're forgetful, they're repeating themselves, driving and forgetting where they're going, but then they kind of catch it and okay, now they remember. These are going to be people who have put things in motion to help them remember, like using the GPS. I always tell people, just an extra aside, I tell the family members, get Life 360. It is an app, it should be on all iPhones and Androids, so that you can know where your loved one is at all times. Life 360 will map out their whole route wherever they are. It'll tell you where they are. You can actually set on their some different landmarks. Let's say they go to church. It'll say, Mama arrived at church. Or, like we have Life 360, so that when I get to the office, my family gets an alert saying, Kim made it to the office. It's just a wonderful thing to have on board so that you always know where your loved one is. Now, let's say they forgot their phone. Another thing I tell the family to do is put a tracker on the car. So that way, if the phone accidentally got left home, they forgot it at home, then you can track the car. And when it gets to the point where all it takes from me is one thing. If they are driving and they get lost and they cannot find their way home, okay, there's no more driving. If they leave a pot on the stove, which is another thing, have the fire alarm, have the alerts come to you, not just to your loved one, because if the loved one gets the alert, they're gonna, pick up and say, okay, yes, I put the fire out, you don't need to come. And they'll never tell you it happened. Most will never tell you it happened because they're gonna be embarrassed. So you need to make sure that you're getting those kinds of alerts so that you know what's going on. And you wanna have cameras. Put some cameras up if they're still living at home alone, put cameras up in the kitchen for sure, in the family room or living room where they spend most of their time, and in the garage. Any blind spots, you want to let them have their privacy in their bedroom, of course, and of course you don't want any cameras in the bathroom, of course, but other areas you want to be able to look. If they're not answering the phone, you want to be able to pull up the camera and see what is going on. So back to our wonderful, fabulous products, though, if someone is having early onset type symptoms, then the tincture and the gummies would be the perfect combination to get a steady state into their system. So you want to do that twice a day. And it will help to reduce the inflammation and to keep their stress level down, and it'll help them with their sleep. The ones that we're showing right now is our Power Hemp MD, which happens to be our strongest tincture oral drop. We want to put 3 drops under the tongue, let it sit there for 2 minutes, and then swallow. It typically has an onset of about an hour, and it'll last for about 4 hours. The gummy, and our gummies are unlike any others because ours are infused. Every bit of gummy that you bite into is loaded with CBD. So that is why we always say you want to start with the 4th. And I always encourage people, when you get your products, just cut them in 4 and be done with it, because you just don't want to make the mistake of taking more than you should. You can always increase what you've taken. If you take a 4th and it's not enough, you can add a 4th. But if you take a half and it's too much, there is no taking it back. You just have to wait until all of your the effects of that wear off. So you don't want to have to put yourself in that situation. But the gummies, 1/4, and doing that at the same time as you're doing that tincture, the gummies will actually kick in 4 hours when that tincture is wearing off. And the gummies will last 8 to 12 hours. So if you do that twice a day, then you're in a good place, and it'll keep you as even keel as you possibly can be. And this has helped so many of my patients so far. I have noticed a remarkable difference, especially in one lady for sure, because her family was kind of hesitant about CBD because, in their mind, this is a drug, I can't do this. But after, they sat down with me and I gave them, the history of it all, then they were more willing to try. Well, they have noticed a remarkable difference. She's not as anxious, she's not as irritable. She's so much more calm when she's with the family now. She doesn't feel as stressed. And she says she feels so much better. And, it's a process. It's not, I can't promise her that it won't get worse. However, what I do know is our amazing products have improved her quality of life, and that is what we were looking for. Now, if there's an episode of anxiety attack or panic attack, we do have our premium flower and other smokables, which you will see in a minute, that can be used. The smokables are the product we have that gets the CBD into your system in the quickest time. 1 minute is all it takes. And the effects will last for about an hour. But this is what you want to use for those stressful periods where they may be panicking or under high stress. 2 or 3 puffs of the flower or the vapes will help to just kind of allow the calm to take over, bring that stress level down, and in turn, in bringing the stress level down, bring that inflammation down to prevent worsening of the Alzheimer's as it is already. And then just on here, since it is here, my wonderful, wonderful Power Extreme pain cream, which is my miracle cream, because one of the things that happens so very often with our Alzheimer's patients is loss of balance, bumps here, bruises. How'd you get that, Mama? I don't know what happened. Mama doesn't even remember that she ran into the wall because she forgot where she was. And so for those bruises, for those bangs that our loved ones can get, the Power Extreme Pain Cream can give some pretty immediate relief, 5 to 15 minutes. It'll start working. But that too, not having to feel that pain will help to also relieve a lot of that anxiety that they're feeling. We have an assortment of gummies here, just so that you can understand how much of a variety and how much Wakana has thought about every different area of our lives. So this isn't just for Alzheimer's patients. This is for anybody who might be having these issues. So for people who are having issues with erectile dysfunction, decreased libido, lack of stamina, King of the Jungle is the supplement for you. It could be Queen of the Jungle as well. But it is the KOJ. It is the main player in our sexual wellness line, but it is going to do just that. It's for libido and stamina and performance. And for so many of our older men, we have an issue with erectile dysfunction. And to prevent them from needing to take those harsh medicines like Cialis and Viagra, which literally can stop your heart from beating, we have a wonderful product here that will not cause cardiac arrest, but it will enhance the sexual experience that like they're looking for. Also, we have the Flight Delta 8 gummies, which are the closest that we have to the real deal, which is why you see that caution sign right on top of the bottle. But this is something that actually helps get those wheels turning. It enhances our creativity, helps us to get our projects taken care of, helps to bring more ideas to the forefront for us to actually implement and complete and put into play. So I have heard wonderful things about this, but this is also something that I use a lot to replace opioids. And I love it, I love it, I love it, and patients love it. My patients are doing so much better. You know, patients get kind of stuck on the opioids because they don't want to hurt. But then they don't even realize that the opioids are not even really working anymore because they've gotten so accustomed to taking them that they've just kind of, you know, mindset. If you take it and you believe it's going to work, then there's going to be some relief that you're going to feel because that's how powerful our minds are. So once they're off of it though, once they're off of the opioids, then they realize how they have so much more clarity with their thoughts. They have more energy. They feel better. And so combining the fact that the Flight Delta 8 is going to help with pain, absolutely, with the fact that it's also helping with the creativity, getting our juices flowing in the brain, their quality of life shoots up tremendously because of how much better they feel. So don't be afraid. If you're on opioids, do not be afraid to be weaned off and to replace it with something like this, because the opioids only serve to convince you that you're not having pain. It's not helping the pain. It's not taking care of the problem at all. All it's doing is helping you to believe that it's not there. This Flight Delta 8, our CBD products, are truly, truly helping. They're reducing the inflammation that causes the pain and therefore reducing the pain. But not just that it's reducing the pain, it's helping with inflammation throughout the body. So overall, you're gonna feel better. So we also have pure gummies because we do have a line for people who have to do drug testing. you know, federally, we can have up to 0.3% THC in all of our CBD products. Well, employers don't care. I mean, just simply put, there are certain employers who, okay, fine, if it's legal, you still can't have it on your drug screen or we're going to fire you. So we still want people who have to do drug testing, though, to be able to enjoy the wonderful, wonderful health benefits that come along with taking our CBD products. So we do have a pure line in which all that is possible of the THC is extracted until we get to 0.0% THC. And so these you can take without any fear of failing your drug test, and they will still work just as well. They will help you to sleep. They will help with stress and anxiety. I actually had one of my friends who said she even felt like the gummy was helping with her sex life. She said, because she's like, I don't know, I don't normally want it like that, but something is different. The only thing that I'm doing different is the gummies. So what does it say? Sex, sleep, and inflammation. The pure gummies will take care of all of that as well. And here again, we do again have the power gummies. But again, don't forget, our gummies are infused, so they are more potent than what you probably would get from the local stores. So start with 1/4. We have culinary products as well. We have seasonings. And so back to our Alzheimer's patients, you can add seasoning after to their foods. You can infuse, again, these are infusion drops that you can add to their drinks. And there's even a CBD butter. Here are more of our smokable products. So you saw the hemp, which is the flower itself. Here we also have pre-rolls that can be ordered, and we have vape cartridges that can be ordered as well. Again, the quickest way to get any CBD into your system, if you do 2 or 3 puffs, it will be in your system in about 1 minute and last about an hour. And last but not least, we have our Flat Belly Lifestyle 2.0 program going on. Phase 3 is where me and my husband are, and actually a bunch of our business partners here in Louisiana, as well as throughout the United States. And so this has been an absolutely fabulous thing. I will tell you that I have not felt, I don't know, I haven't felt this good, this energized in a very, very long time. I think it was yesterday, maybe, or the day before, I had to just stop and say, I feel good. I really feel good. And so with the Flat Belly Lifestyle 2.0, we have 3 different phases to this. Phase 1 and 2 both entail supplements that include our bitters, our detox tea, which is done over a 4-day period, followed by our gummies, Flat Belly gummies, which have Caralluma fimbriata, which helps with appetite control, and our Flat Belly brew coffee, which has Garcinia cambogia, which prevents fat storage in the body, and green tea, which boosts the metabolism. And so phase 1 calls for you to eat healthier. Phase 2 actually calls for you to maybe eat more plant-based and more towards what your blood type is. Because, yep, that is a thing, eating for your blood type. And once you've successfully done those phases, then you can move on to phase 3, which is the 21-day cleanse, 21-day raw cleanse. And that is where we are. We are on week 2. We feel fabulous. I have lost weight. I have gotten through my days without yawning, without feeling blah and sluggish. I feel I can tell a difference. And one of my patients actually said today, well, you look like you're glowing. And so I said, well, you know what? It has to be the 21-day cleanse, because that's the only thing that's changed. And all you're doing is we're juicing. We're getting fruits and vegetables, juicing them. We drink them 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we eat raw. any fruit or vegetable you're able to eat. And we can have walnuts, almonds, and pecans. But otherwise, I have banana. I typically eat salad for my lunch and my dinner. But I feel amazing. And so weight is coming off. And to feel so much energy inside, it's amazing how you don't realize how sluggish you are until you're not anymore. And so get with the person who invited you to this presentation. By all means, make sure you ask about the Flat Belly Lifestyle 2.0. And if you're saying, well, you know what, I'm actually fit and I don't need to lose weight. This 21-day cleanse is not just about weight loss. It's a spiritual journey. It is a journey in which there are 3 supplements that we use. One is to get rid of parasites and mucus in our gut. One is like a liquid colonic to flush out the toxins. And one is a superfood. It's like the superfood of superfoods that we actually put into our juices to give us the supplements and the nutrients that we're needing. And as we're cleansing our body, we want to be totally cleansed, mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and soul. And so we want to connect on a spiritual level as well. And phase 3 is the perfect way for you to reset your body, for you to get rid of toxins, and not just physical toxins. You want to get rid of mental toxins as well. We want to cleanse the whole body. But phase 3 allows you to embark upon a spiritual journey where you're getting your body in total reset mode, where we can start all over. So we can start fresh with a healthy gut, boosting our immune system because our gut is healthy. We get the right absorption of the good nutrients and supplements that we need. Why? Because once we're finished with this 21-day cleanse, we want to eat for our blood type, and we want to eat more plant-based the way God intended us to. We just had a phenomenal training with Dr. Eric Prince and Miss Melissa, and we can see the results. For me, all it took was me seeing Miss Phyllis. Miss Phyllis is one of our co-founders. I had the honor of meeting all of our co-founders, except Dr. Rita. She couldn't make it, but I got to meet 3 of them in August. And one thing I can tell you about Miss Phyllis is that Miss Phyllis likes to eat. Miss Phyllis, I kept thinking to myself, this is me. Because, you know, I am who I am. I don't try to put on any kind of facade for people. You just take me as I am. And Miss Phyllis would just say, okay, look, we've been here long enough. It's time to go because I'm hungry. And I'm not doing that. And I need a little bit more than this. And Miss Phyllis did this. And I really wish I had the picture to show all of you right now. But Miss Phyllis, she looks amazing, and her testimony is so inspiring that I just said, okay, you know what? I just need to do it. Because initially I was like, I am not doing that. I am not. But I'm so glad that I did. Ms. Phyllis, thank you for your testimony. Thank you for being a wonderful, wonderful example for all of us. And on that note, I'm going to end, and I'm going to look to see what kind of questions we have here. Let's see. Hey, Miss Betty. Oh, thank you so much, Miss Betty. Okay, let's see, everybody. Fourth day, taking my pinky rings off. Yes, indeed. Yes. All right, Miss Cherie. All right, Dr. Kim. Should person using the combination of CBD, if on medication, 24 hours before, 2 hours after taking the medicine? Okay, I think Miss Shirley is just stating something. Yes, you should take, if you're gonna do the CBD, you should take it 2 hours before or after any prescription medications. What combination of products for someone undergoing cancer treatment? Now, let me say this. that our products are not meant to diagnose or treat or cure anything. The only way we can make that kind of statement is if a product has gone through double-blinded studies and has gone through the FDA. So when we think of CBD, we do still need to remember that it is an herb. Now, it's an herb that happens to kick butt and do a whole lot of stuff. And so we just want to make sure that we keep that clear, that I'm not saying that it's going to cure any Alzheimer's. I'm just saying that studies so far are showing such great promise that it probably will be helpful in these things, and based on my patients and what I've seen in my patients. So as far as cancer treatment is concerned, I definitely have to tell you, please make sure you're talking to your doctors. The reason I got involved with Wakana was because of a patient who came in and told me about it. And so don't be afraid to speak to your doctor. You need to make sure that you are seeing a doctor who has your best interest at heart. So doctors who care, as far as I am concerned, are going to be doctors who are going to sit down and talk to you and hear you out. So you need to make sure you're explaining why. Why do you want to do this? And allow them to take part in it. Now, if they're all on board and ready to go, because many doctors, there are many of us who are on board, then I definitely would recommend the tincture and the gummy every single day, the power tincture and the power gummy. Now, of course, if you have to do drug screens, then just stick with the pure. But if you can do the power, then stick with the power. Where does the plaque do that? Hyperphosphorylation, that's what it is. You have the hyperphosphorylation, that the amyloid is actually there for a purpose. And then it gets cleared out. It's supposed to easily get cleared out. That's why the tau protein are there as well. They're supposed to maintain the environment, make sure everything is good. But when inflammation starts, that offsets that balanced, healthy environment that we're supposed to have in the brain. And when that gets offset, then you have the ability of this amyloid to just accumulate instead of getting excreted or gotten rid of the way it's supposed to be rid of. And so as it's not being rid of, then it continues to build and build and build until there are literally plaques. Oh, shoot, I didn't show y'all. Let me see. I have a little bit of time. Let me see if I can quickly find this picture. Because there is a picture. I do have a picture of the brain, how the brain looks. All right, hurry, 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 hurry. Okay, so yeah, this here. Let me share my screen one more time. So this is what's happening. You have a healthy brain that looks like this. And when those amyloid plaques build and those tangles start to break down the neurons literally are being destroyed and they wither away. So you have this nice healthy brain over here, and in an Alzheimer's patient, the brain has shrunk. And why does it shrink? Because those neurons are destroyed. And as the neurons are destroyed, you see the brain gets smaller and smaller. I'm sorry I left that slide out. I'm sorry I left that out. So the difference, Ms. Cherie, the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's. So dementia is just more of a descriptive term. It actually just means that you have a change in your ability to think, in your ability to learn, in your ability to remember. And so Alzheimer's is a type of dementia. It's the most common form of dementia. I'm aware of that with nausea, hungry. Let's see. Thank you, Ms. Bernadine. Yes, I got my husband to do. You know what? I told him, I said, no, he said he was going to do it after me. And I said, we both have to be eating the same way. We're the only two people in the house, so we have to eat the same. Let's see. I think maybe, I hope I got everything before I get kicked off. I got 4 minutes. I'm just going through 4 more minutes. Any other questions or anything that I might have missed out on? How do you educate and try explaining to individuals the difference between CBD, urine, NP? Okay, so real quick, Ms. Jacqueline, I can't see your whole name, but I think it's Jacqueline. The difference, okay, so think of cannabis. Cannabis is the mother plant. The mother plant has 2 children that are twins. I call them the twins because when you look at the structure, they are almost identical except for one molecule. The good twin and the bad boy twin. The good twin is hemp. The bad boy twin is marijuana. Both come from cannabis, but 2 completely different plants. And so once you get down to that breakdown, marijuana has greater than 35% THC, less than 20% CBD. And so because it has such a high amount of THC, that is where the psychotropic events happen with the brain. That's where the high comes from. CBD has greater than 20% CBD, but it will have less than 0.3% THC. That itty bitty amount of THC just makes the CBD work at its highest properties. So there's a huge difference. CBD does not get you high. CBD has great health benefits. CBD was actually a major medicine before the 1930s. Doctors used it heavily. And if you are a new distributor, there is a video with Dr. David Allen and 2 or 3 other colleagues who kind of go through the history, but completely different products. But CBD has so many wonderful, amazing health benefits that for me, I want every adult on CBD because our medical issues are gonna be derived from inflammation. And if we can keep that inflammation down, then we can keep most of our medical issues under control. For those of y'all who heard me talk before about my patient who was on the 3 different blood pressure medicines, taking some of them 3 times a day, I had a visit with her today, and she doesn't take her medicine unless her blood pressure is over 130 over 90. I mean, 130 over 85. So she's now to the point where she's only taking her clonidine only if needed. And oh, I'm sorry, she takes 1 pill at night, every night, but all the rest are gone completely. So as she has continued to stay on, she just shared with me some mornings she feels so sluggish because her pressure is too low. So she ended up having to cut down some more. All of this is because of the Wakana CBD. The gummies for the Alzheimer's, the power gummies, and the power tincture. Power, if you look for the power label, power gummies and power tincture twice a day. 3 drops of the tincture under the tongue, hold for 2 minutes, swallow, and 1/4 of the gummy. All right, everybody, thank you. Thank you for hanging in there with me with all my stumbling and my ums and all of this. Hopefully y'all got some good information, and I really appreciate you. And I'll see y'all next week. I'm on next Tuesday again, and I'm gonna see what we'll talk about then. Hopefully I can bring y'all some more interesting information. All right, good night, everybody.